and welcome to another edition of BNEWS In Depth. This month we are tackling an ongoing issue that will likely come up a lot in the next couple of years, the state of Burlington's water supply and what to do about it. As many of you know, Burlington had to shutter some of its wells a couple of years ago due to contamination. This move, coupled with an increase in irrigation system usage, has put a strain on the town's water supply. So what can be done about it? To look into the current state of Burlington's water and possible future solutions, I invited Town Administrator John Petrin and Department of Public Works Director John Sanchez in for an in-depth interview. Let's take a look. All right, I'm now here with my two guests. I've got Town Administrator John Petrin and DPW Director John Sanchez here to talk about water. Thank you guys for coming in. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for inviting us.
So just start off, just in general, what's sort of like the state of Burlington's wells, water supply? Where are we right now?
We're shutting them down tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Well, I think the most important thing is that our water has been meeting all the guidelines, all the requirements from the EPA and the DEP for our water quality. So we have very good drinking water. So the issue so far has not been water quality as much as quantity. So where we are now is we survived another summer. I want to say, even though we had a lot of rain, the demand still went up significantly in the summertime. The Board of Selectmen actually voted a water restriction, conservation restriction for this year, which allowed people to only water every other day. So we did see a decline in the amount of water that people used, but a demand went past 4 million gallons a day, which for the ones who heard me talk about this before, in the wintertime, the number drops down to below 2.5 million gallons a day. So it's significant, the amount of water that we're still utilizing in the summer. And the issue, as we spoke before, is those 3 wells that we shut down years ago because of the 1,4-dioxane contamination. So we're still not having those back.
Right, so how many wells does the town potentially have and how many are operating right now?
Well, the town does have 2 water treatment plants. One is the Mill Pond, which is surface water, and we pump water from the Shoshin River in Billerica to operate the treatment plant. And then we have the Vinebrook treatment plant that has 7 wells. And from the 7, 3 have been offline for several years right now. And
talk a little bit about the history of that. You mentioned it briefly, the 1,4-dioxane. Like what is that? Where did it come from? And what changed at the state level that made it where the levels used to be acceptable and they aren't now?
Yeah, basically, we need to know where Burlington has been over the years, and I mean over a long period of time when we had a lot of manufacturing and industry around our aquifer. So unfortunately, the aquifer got contaminated. Hence, we have a water treatment plant. Before that was discovered, we actually used to pump the water pretty much into the system without filtration or any other kind of treatment. When that was through the 80s, I believe it happened, that we found there was a lot of ground contamination from all this industry. Systems were installed to take care of a lot of issues that we had, such as VOCs. And in addition to that, we put in systems for filtration and treatment for iron and manganese. And at that point, there were pollutants in the ground which we were not able to really test to the levels that we can today. So what happened was in 2011, 2012, new methods for testing for 1,4-dioxane were developed. So areas where we thought we had no 1,4-dioxane, all of a sudden we have it. And not only we have it, the DEP lower the threshold from 3 parts per billion. This is very small, 3 parts per billion is 3 micrograms per liter. It's a tiny little amount. And they dropped that to 0.3 micrograms per liter, which, and at that point, that's when we started seeing that some of these wells had levels that exceeded that.
And barely exceeded. So when we dropped from 3 to 0.3, think about that. That's.
I was going to try to put that in context. It sounds small, but it's actually a really big change, right?
It's a minor amount of 3, when you think about it. So it's only a very small portion, and then we were just exceeding the 0.3, at that point. But we shut down the wells, so those wells have been shut for what, 4 years now?
Yeah, I think we're on.
So they've been shut down for 4 years, and we've been operating without them.
Now, just so people know, what is 1,4-dioxane? Like, what is it? How did it get into the water supply to begin with?
Well, as far as how it got into the water, obviously it goes through broken pipes and sewers and things that again, whoever was using this type of, it's an oxidant that was used for a cleaning agent.
Right, quite widely used, like across the country, right?
It is widely used, absolutely. In fact, Tide detergent had 1,4-dioxane, so it's very, very common. A lot of baby shampoo will have, or used to have, 1,4-dioxane. So it's a very common agent that was in the water. And again, these companies, through their use and through leaks in their drain systems, that's how it got into the groundwater system. The unfortunate part is that it moves very slow in the ground. So this has been in the ground for, who knows, 30, 40 years. And it will take probably as long as that for it to finally come out of the ground. And the second unfortunate thing is not volatile. So even if with the trimming that we currently have, we're not able to remove it from the water.
What do you mean not volatile?
A lot of the compounds, like say gasoline, to give an example of gasoline. Gasoline is very volatile. So if you have gasoline and water and you aerate the water, gasoline is going to come off the water. It's
so
not going to stay there.
You can separate
it'll
it.
go up. It'll go up in the air.
Yeah.
1,4-dioxane will not do that.
Just sort of stubbornly stays where it is.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Mr. Petrin, we talk about the need for this water policy, and I think there is a sentiment among some people that maybe this is because of all the new businesses that are opening up. But you've talked at length, and I would like you to do it again. What is the biggest stress on the water supply system?
Oh, it's one thing: irrigation systems. So, John talks about the fact that over the years we actually use less water than we did. So the town of Burlington produces less water than it used to, and on a per household basis, it's dramatically dropped. So we're actually below state guidelines, as to how much water should be used per household. So congratulations to the Burlingtonians out there. We do better in this community than in many other communities in conserving our water. That's a lot of reasons, we've trained our kids to the point where we watch our water, even toothpaste commercials, talk about, shutting off the, the water in between while you're brushing your teeth. Dishwashers and washers have all come in so that they're built now to use a lot less water, as part of their washing cycle.
Yeah, more efficient.
So they're more efficient, and we're much better in our plumbing, with the low flow toilets, everything, as well as not as we try to find our leakage. So we've done a good job on the town side in fixing pipes, eliminating leakage. So there's been so much that occurs. We're using less water. The problem now is that when you look at our numbers, as John said, in a winter we need to produce 2.5 million gallons of water per day to meet the town's demand. In the summer, we have to produce $5.5 to $6 million on a peak day in the summer to produce that water. Why? Irrigation systems.
Right.
So companies in this town really are not heavy water users, and we've got the statistics to show it. They're not a problem for us. So even with the restaurants, that have been coming to town, which helps the tax base, which helps the meals tax, they are not putting a stress. A lot of people have that belief that it's the business side that's putting the stress on. It's the residential irrigation systems that's putting stress on. Bottom line, we got the numbers to show it.
And you meant 5.5 to 6 million gallons per day during the peak of the summer.
Yes, compared to 2.5 during winter. Again, the only difference between winter and summer, we all drink about the same. You maybe drink a little bit more water in the summer, but as far as other things, it's the same. It's the irrigation systems, and we have the numbers to show that.
Now, I know last year at the end of the summer, we had a drought. This new policy went into place. What's been the difference between last year and this year as far as the peak irrigation usage?
Well, when you get rain, people don't irrigate as much.
That's awesome.
So, so what happens when, the grass was naturally green all summer this year.
We
If you
had
looked at it.
plenty of rain.
Plenty of rain. Look at the town common. Last year, the town common, in July, I think had burnt out completely. So July and early August. This year, I'm not sure the town common ever really burnt out. So people didn't need to irrigate. People love their green lawns, these days. And so that makes a huge difference.
And also, it was brought up before that people probably irrigate more than they need to, as far as to keep that green lawn. Like there's more.
And yeah, that's unfortunate. One of the reasons the selectmen voted to have the water conservation restriction to allow people to water every other day is because people don't need to really water every day. And the other part where we see a lot of water being wasted is when people water during the day. It may be 11, 12, 2 in the afternoon on a hot day, and you see people trying to water the lawns where half of the water is just evaporating.
Right.
So part of the restrictions that the selectmen put in place was to say, okay, let's allow the residents to water the lawns, but let's do it in a smart way. You don't need to do it every day, so every other day is fine. And the second one is don't water during those hours where the sun is going to just evaporate that water. So the second restriction is we don't allow people to water before 9 a.m. After 9 a.m. or before 5 p.m. So during those peak hours of the day, try to keep that water from really being wasted. It helps. It helped this year, although the rain helped a lot too. And that's why we didn't see the peaks that we saw the prior year. But that conservation restriction will be in place through the winter and through next year. It's something they voted year-round. This is not something in the condition that our water system it is. It's not something that we could lift it until we have a stable water system going forward.
Yeah. So even if it's drier next summer, it will definitely be in place.
Correct.
And did people comply for the most part?
Yes, we did outreach. I mean, we reached out to everybody who has an irrigation system. We had to do some enforcement this year, not as much as what we did the prior year. It seems like people did catch on to the fact that we're having some water issues, and we're grateful for that for our residents to comply with the conservation restriction for that reason. Because like this year, we didn't have to issue any fines. We did send quite a few warnings, but not as many as the prior year.
Now back to the wells. We talked about some of them are offline. What impact does that have on your ability to do maintenance on the ones that are currently up and running?
Well, that is actually one of the biggest issues we have. Is not so much doing maintenance on the other wells. Is the ability to we used to have the ability to shut down one treatment plant to do maintenance on the other treatment plants. With this wells being offline, the full capacity of that treatment plant is only 2 million gallons a day. As you heard me saying before, in the wintertime, we need 2.5 million gallons a day for an average day, which means that if we were to shut down the the mill pond for a period of time to do maintenance on it, the other plant can't carry us anymore. So that is limiting the amount of maintenance that we can do. I mean, we schedule it strategically around rainy days. We will go and fill up the tanks first, and we wait for those rainy days, and we know that the maintenance is going to be lower, and that's how we get as much maintenance as we can do during that limited, maybe 2-day period of time. But it's really affecting the long-term maintenance needs of the facility, as we can't really shut down for more than a couple of days to do maintenance on it.
Now, if you had your, a magic wand, whatever, and you could have all the water you wanted for a certain period of time, like what kind of, are we at a good level as far as maintenance goes, or do you feel like there needs to be some sort of a big sort of overhaul or reproject? A big endeavor.
It's interesting you said that. Our plant was completed in 2008. We actually started using it in 2007. And so we're going in 10 years, almost 11 on that. And we're due some maintenance. We're due we need a couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks of shutdown, so we're able to do some things that we haven't been able to do in the filters and things like that, but we just can't, because like I said, I can't shut down the plant for that long. So yeah, we will need at least 2 weeks. And everything that we do right now is totally, like I said, we have to line it up depending on demand, the weather, rain, to try to maximize the time that we have the plant offline. But Again, probably if I have magic wand, it would be 2 weeks.
2 weeks, and that would
Easy.
so that would be 2 weeks with reduced water or no water for some people. Like how would it?
No.
what would it
No,
look
no,
like?
no, no. I thought if my magic wand
Well,
was
you
to have
had
the
your
water
magic wand,
available.
but what if you didn't have that magic wand? I mean, is there like a need? Is there gonna be a day where you need to do some heavy work there that will require you to shut it down?
That is what we've been talking about.
So that's the issue we have is the word is redundancy that we use, is being able to provide water from different sources, which we don't have. So right now we're fine in providing the 6 million gallons a day, 5 to 6 million gallons a day at our peak for a little bit. We're fine with that. But if something goes wrong or if we need to do something major, we don't have any backup. So right now we have emergency supply capacity through Lexington, through Bill Ricker, to assist us, but not to the 6 million gallons or even 3 million gallons of one plant that we have. So those are the things we're looking at into the future. When you look at Vine Brook, plant is only good for another 10 years maybe.
Yeah, we'll have to go
So
there.
before it needs a complete overhaul or a rebuild, what do we do, at that point? So our issue here is redundancy, in the sense that we don't have any backup water supply to backfill the needs we would have.
And is there another potential source in town that we could, have another treatment plant or other wells? Or what's sort of the other options that might be out there as far as,
Well,
aquifers?
wells is very hard to actually find a location of new wells. When this last time the town expanded on wells, which they added wells 10 and 11 near Coles, at that time they looked at the aquifer to see if there were any other places where they could actually place wells, and they couldn't find any other place. So I'm going back to this report from the 90s. And that's why they placed them there, which it was like the only place that they had available to do.
Yeah.
So as far as water sources, we're very limited to where we can get our own water from. The Shoshian River, for example, where we take our water for our surface water treatment plants. The issue with that is during the summertime, for everybody who knows the Shoshian River, it goes pretty dry. And when it goes dry, we can't take water from it. So,
Right, sure. Makes sense.
So we're very limited on how we manage water during the summertime, and this is why that second source, the redundant source of water, is so important to the town in the future.
So we're not aware of additional water that could be had in town, and even if there was, the process is so in depth. Working with the State Department of Environmental Protection (DEP) to get permitting, because the state looks at water as one commodity for the state.
Right.
So they don't say, oh, Burlington, go get whatever you can from your town. They limit it. They limit us. So we have permits from the state as to how much water we can take, because us taking too much water affects maybe stream supplies
Right,
and
other
aquifers
towns.
in other places. So we would need permission to get there. We're not aware, and the state doesn't have any ideas for us as to being able to get additional water from local sources. So there's only one place for additional water, and that's the MWRA.
Right, which is the next thing I was going to ask about.
So that's the only outlet that we have to truly consider additional water at this point.
Now, has there been consideration or, an examination of possibly, joining with the MWRA, the Massachusetts Water Resource Authority?
That's ongoing right now. So we've had a meeting with MWRA. We are in the process of getting our information. We've had meetings with our neighbors, just to talk to them. And so we are looking at what would be the process, the scope, the cost, and the availability of connecting to MWRA as an additional source. So we're not necessarily saying we're going to end all our, local water, but what we're looking for is that redundancy, is to be able to get an additional water supply on top of our current supplies.
And what are you seeing or hearing as far as costs? Like to have that option, is it very expensive?
First, any water is going to be expensive, to add on. And maintenance of water is expensive. So we spend a lot of money on our two plants now.
Right.
When you look at the cost of the bonding, that we pay back for the plants that we built, as well as the operations. So MWRA does have water available. You know, that's the good piece. They have a lot of water available, and they have the capacity to spend to us. The problem is they don't have a line that's big enough right in our area just to plug into.
All right, so there's more infrastructure that would have to
There's more infrastructure that's needed to get to be able to bring that amount of water to Burlington to supplement. Those are the things we're taking a look at. So we did do a report, which was reviewed recently by the special committee appointed by the moderator on water sources by town meeting. So we've got that. We've got estimates, you know, of what it's going to take, you know, to bring water. And MWRA basically charges $5 million upfront capital cost for each 1 million gallons of water. So that we know. So then the idea, you know, then the next cost factor is, well, how much to build a line? you know, from the which is about a 3 to 4 mile line on the initial view that we've taken. So we're working with MWRA at this point on these things.
Now, just put it in perspective for people. What's, you know, the cost? And you know, we spend money on the wells and maintenance and all that, but then there's all, you know, the cost of the MWRA. If the town were to try to make a switch over rather than just a redundant, two systems, what would the cost difference between those two potentially be? It'd be more expensive just to use WMRA full time, or is there?
Well,
is this too hypothetical?
Well, no,
too hypothetical. It is, because MWRA is actually cheaper for the water source that comes through. The whole question is the capital to get water, you know, there, and you know, that piece. So it's kind of hard to say, would we spend more on MWRA? Well, we're looking for another water source, so yeah, we have to pay for that. If MWRA was in this community today, would it be cheaper? It might be cheaper, it may not, depending on how much you owed on capital and everything.
Oh, okay. And with that system, if we, the town were to join, would that have an impact as far as residents, seeing it on their water bills? Like, how does it?
Well, that's a very interesting point, because the other little secret that we have in town is that we don't charge you for the cost of water right now.
The full cost.
Right, you don't charge for the full cost of water or sewer. So, when we say that we have great water rates, it's not so much because it doesn't cost us more to produce the water. We have great water rates because we use part of your tax bills from both residential and commercial areas to pay for the cost of water. So the actual cost of water for, I want to call the average homeowner, somebody who uses probably about 60,000 gallons a year or less, in that range, the actual cost is double what they pay in the water bill. So the question is, how will you finance a water system? It depends on the selectmen and the policies that I said. And like I said, in this particular case, it's not so much on the actual cost, but on how those costs are allocated. So going back to the MWRA and what John said, the water that the MWRA sells per 1 million gallons of water, the cost is very similar to what it costs us to produce 1 million gallons of water from the Vinebrook treatment plant. So it's a comparable price. It's not that the water is 3 times more expensive or twice as expensive. They're about the same. So that will be a policy decision if the town were to join. How are you going to pay for that? I guess I can't make that give you that answer right now, but
sure.
So I just want to explain a little bit on. So about half the cost of water is on the property tax rate. Many towns, or most towns in Massachusetts, the cost that they charge for the water and sewer is the complete cost. So the town doesn't subsidize from the property taxes on water and sewer. In Burlington, we subsidize. So your property tax rate that you pay, part of that goes towards water and sewer. That's significant. Some towns, so we say we average what, $400 a year for average water sewer user. Some towns it's $1,500.
Yeah. So
now it's not that we do it better or it's cheaper. It's that we're subsidizing through the tax rate to do that.
Right. So you're saying some towns charge the full tax rate
Right.
and then charge the full water. Burlington uses some of that.
Yeah,
tax
so the
rate
tax rate
towards-
has no
to bring-
consideration for water and sewer. So it's a totally separate pricing structure for water and sewer. Our pricing structure is reduced because we are using taxes to run the system.
Excellent. All right, and last thing, just sort of overcap or overlook, put it in perspective. What, in the next couple years or next year, I know there's been a lot of talk about this, what might come up before the Board of Selectmen or town meeting as far as potential proposals of, how to sort of handle the water situation, or what's in the works?
So I think what we'll be seeing is next year, next calendar year, 2018, you'll see a proposal, going before the selectmen and then to town meeting to design a connection with MWRA. That's, I think that's the only solution we truly see, as viable. And I know again, that town meeting committee has looked at it. They haven't made a recommendation yet, but we'll be presenting to them as well, information, as to the way, we see solidifying the future, for being able to provide water in Burlington. So again, the irrigation systems have triggered, and it gets worse every year because more irrigation systems are being put in, is triggering the need for us to look at redundancy and providing water, as well as the problem with the 1,4-dioxane, and the fact that our plants are getting older. So we're 2/3 life usage of the Vine Brook plant. We're 1/3 life usage on Mill Pond. And those are all triggering that we need to start thinking about this for the future. So probably next year you'll see something coming out of, for a proposal for the future of water.
Great.
Something needs to be done.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll keep our eye on that. Maybe have you back to talk about
Okay,
it
great.
when
Thank
the
you.
proposal comes out. So, Mr. Petrin, Mr. Sanchez, thank you for joining us here on BNEWS In Depth. Appreciate it.
Great, sure thing.
So there you have it. As said in the interview, we can expect a proposal to connect to the MWRA within the next year. We at BNews will keep an eye on the story and work to bring you the latest details as information becomes available. Thanks for watching this BNews In Depth. Join us next month for a look at all the holiday activities happening in Burlington, including People Helping People's Wish Tree and other fundraisers. I'm BNews Director Rich Hosford, and we'll see you next time.